Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to the face and the card making space and a Halloween card using a couple of the newest products from Simon Says Stamps October 2024 release, which is called Sweet Wishes. There's a big variety of products in this release. Like there's a little bit of Halloween, which of course I was like, ooh, excited, but there's also holiday and fall and birthday and just variety. There's variety. I will have a link to the release in the description box below the video for you to check out. I'm also part of a blog hop today to share inspiration and whatnot with this release. I will, as always, have a link to my blog post in the description box below the video. It's worth checking out because there's giveaways. There's plenty of other amazing designers to check out. Tons of inspiration. And a code as well. That'll be in the blog post. And yeah, we're going to do some spooky sky sort of technique, which I have done many videos and in many different ways over the years. I'll have a link to that playlist because I compiled them all into a playlist this year because I have done this one a lot. Not a technique that I invented. Stacey Hutchinson, who designs for Tim Holtz, she's the one who came up with it and just love it. Love it. This time I did it with ink blending instead of sprays. It was fun. And then cute little ghosties and die cuts. So, as always, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video along with everything else. My links are affiliate links, so that just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It is what helps pay the bills and keep the channel going. And that's it for the housekeeping. Let's get into making this card. So the first thing I did to make this card was I created my background. And I have a piece of distress watercolor paper and a circle mask. This is from Simon's Circle Masks stencil set that has the stencils and it includes the masks. But with this, like the spooky sky technique, I've used like a die cut masking paper, die cut UFO paper. There's a million options. This is just convenient. And I'm basically holding the mask in place with some Post-it tape, but the Post-it tape is also to mask off that lower portion because that's where the ground is going to be for this background. So I get a little inky because, yeah, that mask isn't really being held. So I have to hold it with my fingers. I'm getting ink everywhere. I don't really care. But you could add a teeny little bit like of adhesive to hold the mask in place. But it's because I'm going to be, spraying with water and adding splatter and all the things. So I'm using distress inks to create this background. And I started with Fossilized Amber, just kind of around where the moon area. And then I go in with Uncharted Mariner. And then I'm going to go over this with some black soot, which just kind of deepens it up. And I love black soot. It's, yeah, I love it. I love just that extra it gives. And I'm not blending it like heavily. It's just kind of mixing in with the Uncharted Mariner. And it's perfect. It's perfect. I love it. So I've removed the mask and that little like mask stencil, and then I put the Post-it tape, move it up. So now I'm just going to blend on the lower portion, and I clean the ink off my work surface so that I'm not getting it absolutely everywhere. And then I'm going in with not Fossilized Amber, Vintage Photo. I have my inks stacked in front of me so I remember what's what. Vintage Photo, apply a bit of that, and then I'm going to go in with Mowed. And I specifically went in with distress inks to do all of this because distress inks are what I call super water reactive. A lot of inks are water reactive, Simon's Positively saturated inks, etc. But distress inks are more water reactive. And especially for this technique, it works. It works so well. And you'll see this in like a second when I start spraying water, just how reactive they are. So I spray right in the center and right there. I just sprayed in the center of that open area and it immediately started pulling in that ink. Love. And then I'm going to dab some up. We're going to have fun with this. And then I'm using my like distress sprayer and I hold it like higher up and I only press the nozzle about halfway. So then you get those big splotchy bits of water, which love. And again, so water reactive. And we ain't done. We're going to add more. So I started to like dry everything with my heat tool. And then I was like, I want more splattery bits. So we're going to spray it again. So that's what I'm going to do. Just because it's another one of those things, because once you start playing, you know, with the inks and the backgrounds and you're purposely getting messy, it's kind of hard to stop sometimes because it's fun. So I let it sit for a few seconds, like a minute, whatever. And then I pick it up with some paper towel and I've got all of these like splotchy bits. Then I use that circle mask again, just to kind of cover the moon area. And I just use some scrap paper to cover the bottom portion because I want to add splatter just to what will be like the sky. And for that, I'm using my, Picket Fence Studios Paper Splatter Watercolor in Liquid White Snowflake. One of my go-tos because it's shimmery. It looks like absolutely nothing on camera. You know, it's like I splattered on and there's nothing there. But in real life, and I'll tilt it in the light like later on in the video, of course, but in real life, it's just that shimmer, you know, that shimmer splatter that I love. I love. So splattered that pretty heavily onto this background using my fan brush. And then I'm going to dry this with my heat tool again. You don't necessarily need to, but I want to add more splatter and I don't want them like mixing. Sometimes I don't mind. Sometimes they'll mix a bit because depending on how much you're just adding onto a background. But I dried it, just gave it a good little blast with my heat tool. And then I'm going to add black splatter, which black soot distress paint for the win. Put that on my palette. I've removed all the masks and the covers because I want this all over just everything. And again, using my fan brush, put that on there, and then I immediately cleaned off said fan brush because black soot distress paint dries permanently and it will stain everything. So then I die cut just a whole bunch of scraps using the first set I use is the Spooky Tree Arch die set. Love. I love this die. The spooky trees are, oh, they're so good. Like, look at them. And that's just one wafer die. And I die cut it from brown cardstock. And then I'm just using my Olo markers to just add a bit of depth, you know, so it's not just flat. There's so many ways you can kind of step up just plain die cuts, either using, you know, alcohol markers, Olos, Copics, Spectrum wire, etc. Or, you know, ink blending. I've shown a bunch of different ways, you know, over the years. And it always just depends on my mood. I get asked like, why did I choose XYZ product? Again, it just depends on my mood. Because you can do anything, you know, whatever you're more comfortable with, whatever suits you. Today I was like, I'm going to use my Olo markers. And I'm working on my glass work surface, which markers getting all over it. You can work on scrap paper when you're doing stuff like this too. I don't like sticking these to like a grip mat when I'm using my alcohol markers. I'll get back to that in a second. To clean that up off my glass mat, hand sanitizer. Cleans it right up. We're good to go. So I don't use my grip mats, like my photopolymer grip mats, when I'm doing stuff like this because I'm, you know, covering these die cuts. The alcohol ink is getting everywhere, obviously. And I don't want to get it on my grip mats. It's not the end of the world. Like a little bit of alcohol marker isn't going to like ruin your grip mats. But like I've been saying a lot, do not use alcohol or abrasive cleaners on your grip mats or your photopolymer stamps. Over time, it can ruin them. But again, a little bit, it's not going to like hurt anyone. But I just, with stuff like this, I would either just work on my glass surface like I've shown and I clean it up with hand sanitizer, or I'll work on scrap paper and I'm good. So those little ghosties, those first ones, those are from that same Spooky Tree Arch. Again, love, because there's just a variety of shapes and sizes, which is perfection. And then these three are from the Trick or Treat Ghosts, which I was so excited when I was like going through the release and then came across a package of these and I was like, these are the cutest little things ever. And I actually die cut those twice. I couldn't resist the little trick-or-treaters. I was like, they need to be on the inside as well. So everything I'm doing, I actually ended up doing just twice. It didn't take that long. These aren't very big. And same thing, all their little accessories, like their costumes, I just die cut from just scraps of cardstock because they're small and it works. You could also just die cut everything from white and then color it in. I've shown that, you know. Again, it depends on my mood. The bonus of using like cardstock scraps, like color cardstock, is adding things like the markers or, you know, shading, etc. It's just faster because you've already got that color cardstock base. But the other thing to remember, of course, is when coloring with alcohol markers or just anything really on anything other than white cardstock, you always got to remember that it's going to look a little different. So especially if you're going for a certain look with these, it's fine. They're just little pieces. It doesn't matter. But if you're going for a certain look or you want a certain shade, etc., to like test on a scrap of the color you're coloring on to see how it looks when it dries. So after I did my little bits of shading, I decided to just take a black Olo marker and I filled in their little eyes. You could die cut them from, you know, scraps of black cardstock, but I was like, meh. They all stuck in the wafer dies. I've talked about this before. When that happens, sometimes I just go with it. And I was like, why pop them out? They're already in place, so I don't got to do anything except add a little color. Or you could just pop them out completely. Because even on the packaging, they actually don't have eyes, which sounds horrible, but they're still cute. But I was like, oh, they're here. I'm going to go with this. So I just went in and used my marker to fill all that in with black so that their eyes they're present. So after I've got all of that filled in, now I can start dressing up the little trick-or-treaters and sorry it's late. So again, some of these pieces are small, so reverse tweezers for the win, and then just my craft tacky glue. This one I think is my favorite little cat outfit. You guys, I had so much fun making this card. And if time permitted, I would have made multiples or just kept playing with this set because, I don't know, I just thought it was so cute. So got that one assembled with his little trick-or-treat, pumpkin trick-or-treat bag. And then this one with his little mask and his little cape. Love. It's just so stinking cute. Like, seriously. So got him assembled, and then my little witch ghost. So got that little hat, the hat band onto the hat, and then onto the little ghost, and then I'll add his little broom, and then I've got my 3 little trick-or-treaters, all super adorable. So get those into place. And then once I've got my little characters and the little trees, you know, with all their definition and whatnot, for my sentiment, I pulled out an oldie but goodie set that I have used in so many videos. I've repurchased these more than once. These are the like pre-printed sentiment strips from Simon Says Stamp, and these ones are the Spooky Salutations reverse Spooky Salutations. And these are like laser printed on Simon's Heavyweight Smooth cardstock. You technically can foil these because it's laser printed, like it's toner printed. So with toner reactive foil, I rarely do that. I just use them as is. And I just trim them down. I eyeball it and trim down. You can also use like sentiment strip, like label dies and that sort of a thing to die cut these. But most of the time, I just do my thing with my paper trimmer. As bad as I'm getting with eyeballing, you know, the older I get and the worse my eyes get, I can manage it with the sentiment strips. I don't know why. But I can't cut a straight line anymore. Anyway, that's a rant for another day. Anyway, cut all my little sentiment strips. And then I'm going to start assembling my card front. And normally I don't do this. I've talked about this before. It's like, I don't like fiddling with little tiny thin strips of, you know, foam tape. Like other makers do that, and all the power to them. And I'm just like, I don't do that. But I did it for this card. But before I get to putting it in place, I also decided to add a little bit of baker's twine right along my, you know, little horizon line that I created just for funsies. So I wrapped some brown and white baker's twine around my card front, reverse tweezers for the wind to hold the knot in place, and made my bow. And then I had trimmed foam squares down into little strips just to pop up that spooky tree arch. So it's got just a bit of definition, like a bit of depth to it. Because it's popped up, I didn't like put foam behind everything. And then with all the little ghosties, same thing. I'm using a combination of some I'm just gluing directly to the background. Some I'm popping up with thicker foam squares because that's just going to build, you know, the definition and depth to this. And then I should have done this from the get-go, but I was flying by the seat of my pants and wasn't thinking. But all the ones I was popping up with foam squares, plus the other ones, I put washi tape on the back of all these ghosts to keep those eyes that I was talking about in place so that they don't just fall out. Although, again, it's a Halloween card, so if it happened, it's like, that's just a spooky coincidence. Who'da thunk? But put a bit of washi tape on the back to hold everything in place so that, you know, we're good to go. And then I popped the rest of my little ghosties here into my scene. You could leave them like this and then just add a sentiment because like that spooky arch and those little ghosts are adorable. but I had to use these trick-or-treaters because they're so cute. So those I'm also popping up with the thicker foam squares because like they're kind of the main focus of this card. So going back and forth, just making sure that everything is gonna fit into place here. And then once I've got all of them in place, I'm going to add those sentiment strips that I had trimmed down. So I've got the creep in it reel, and for the ones I'm putting on the front, I am edging the cardstock with a black marker. That just makes everything look a little more seamless. With something like this with the sentiment strips, because I've talked about this like when I do paper piecing, and I'm very like, do not use an alcohol marker when you're doing paper piecing and the pattern paper. I explain that in those videos, but with this, it honestly doesn't really matter because this is very heavyweight cardstock. It's not gonna like cause any issues. So you could just use an alcohol marker for this, but I use my Tombow or my Memento Tuxedo Black. That's what this black marker is, and it's just my go-to, and that's all I use it for, is for paper piecing and for things like this, just to cover that exposed white edge of the cardstock, and it just makes everything look just a little more seamless, especially when I'm popping them up like I am now with foam, you know, foam squares and that. So it just, yeah, makes everything look better in my opinion. It's worth the 2 seconds it takes to, you know, edge those pieces of cardstock. And then yeah, I'm gonna pop all these in. So I've got Creep in It Reel, which I just thought was really cute. And I've got the Got Candy, kind of fitting with my little trick-or-treaters. And then I also added the little Happy Haunting because, you know, why not? So popped all of those into place with the foam squares, just trimming them down where needed and fitting them into the little nooks and crannies basically of the scene I've created. And then my card base is a top folding A2 white note card. And I've got a couple more of the sentiment strips here that just worked because it's like, don't be yourself, it's Halloween, and then let's spook up some fun. And then yeah, my little trick-or-treat ghosts, because I needed them on the inside as well. Why not? A little extra for what I do sometimes on the insides, but worth it. Worth it. So adhered the little ghosts and then adhered the final sentiment strip. Once this is adhered into place, I'm going to glue down the card front to the card base. And off camera, I just put something heavy on top of this just to hold everything down till the glue dried. And then once this is adhered, I'm going to add a little bit of bling. Not a lot, just a little, because I've got the shimmer of that splatter in the background too. But I couldn't resist adding some of these. These are the new, again, they're little shaky containers, Opal Positively Dazzling gems, which yet again on camera right now, like looking straight down at them, they don't look that special. They're not very shiny, but in real life, they are. They reflect and they do look very opal-ish. You know, they're a little cloudy and a little reflective. I was like, oh, they're perfect for little ghosties, in my opinion. So I adhered a few of those. And then I took a white gel pen. And that's where I added the dots to their eyes and then just little random like highlights here and there just to, you know, give everything that little extra something. And I think it just kind of helped like enhance everything. You can see their little eyes a little better, especially that dude wearing the mask. And then I also added a few little random like dots and little X's and stars and that to the background, which will be subtle because this was all distress ink. So the white gel pen will kind of absorb a bit of that, but I'm fine with that. And then I also added a few little lines to the spooky tree arch just to tie it all together. And then once I've got my little highlights and dots and whatnot into place, this card is complete. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I had a ton of fun making this, and we've got just these cute little ghosties, and they're trick-or-treating and spooking everything up and haunting things and having fun. So, like I mentioned in the intro, I'll have links to all the things in the description box below. I'll link to the Spooky Skies playlist at the end. I'll also link to my Halloween 2024 playlist. That'll be linked in the end screen as well at the very end of the video, so you can check it out if you're interested. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye! Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!